May 25th, 1961. President John Kennedy is addressing the U.S. Congress. Let's listen in.
On an urgent time schedule, or managed our resources and our time so as to ensure their fulfillment. I therefore ask the Congress, above and beyond the increases I had earlier requested for space activities, to provide the funds which are needed to meet the following national goals. First, I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal, before this decade is out, of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the Earth. No single space project in this period will be more impressive to mankind or more important for the long-range exploration of space, and none will be so difficult or expensive to accomplish. In conclusion,
Okay, so President Kennedy will immediately get started on what historians refer to as the space race. Now, it was in 1957 that the Russians launched Sputnik. It was a hoax. Supposedly, Sputnik was a satellite. Satellites are a hoax. It was designed to start a race so that America could be the first one to land a man on the moon. And Kennedy will say, by the end of the decade. So he's referring to the 1960s. So come the year 1970, President Kennedy is suggesting and hoping for that the United States will land a man on the moon by the end of the decade. Now, the title of this video is From Camelot to the Moon. So Kennedy's theme, or his administration, is the new frontier. And remember, the nickname Camelot has been given to Kennedy and his time as president, that everything is wonderful and there's no real major problems anywhere. They're lurking in the background, okay? And that will all happen when this one gets in, the one behind him, the so-called Vice President, Lyndon Baines Johnson. So you have everything's good under Kennedy. We don't really have any problems. And then as soon as he is taken out and off the stage of history, everything will get really terrible under Johnson, when Johnson takes office after the hoax assassination of Kennedy. So let's go then to Dallas, to none other than the book depository. And according to the hoax history, it's from the book depository right about here that a man by the name of Lee Harvey Oswald will fire some shots that will kill the President of the United States, John Kennedy. And it's the 6th floor. So the clues are in front of the public. The number 6, which is a devil's number, remember 666, is the mark of the beast, and it comes from a book depository, meaning it's out of a book. Okay? The so-called assassin arises out of a book. Okay? Now, if that's not enough clues for the American public, we'll go to the next clue. when Oswald is captured, where is he captured? In a movie theater. And I suppose these are the titles of the movies that were playing at the time. War is Hell, Cry of Battle. And isn't it something that all these people are gathered, and there's photographers, and so we're shown photos like this, that it was in a movie theater that the assassin is captured. Now, you know, one of my lines is it real, R-E-A-L, or real, R-E-E-L, as a reel of film. Now, just look at how the lights illumine him, and he's got like a white glow about him and everything, okay? And all these photographers and everything like that. It's like he's a celebrity. Well, he's not a celebrity in the hoax history, but you can see what I mean. It's a production. Of course, people want to get their postcard of the movie theater. Maybe even people want to go and sit where he sat. Who knows what's in the minds of people? There's somebody trying to mark the spot, the Oswald seat. Duping delight, right here. Duping delight. And of course, later on in the Dallas police station, Jack Ruby will take Oswald out in the hoax history. There's the Lee Harvey Oswald seat. Now, there's definitely something in the name, okay? So Lee, the name of Lee, talks about a meadow, a clearing meadow, clearing. And then Harvey talks about iron. And then the origin down here, different origins are assigned, but on this particular one, it's battle worthy. And then you have Oswald, Os coming from God, and Wald or Waald, rule, the rule of a god or rule of God, something along that nature. I like to see Os, O-S, as sort of saying Oz, O-Z, and Oz is a code name, I believe, for America, like the Wizard of Oz, Dr. Oz. Okay, so the name itself has been coded. But basically, if we go back to the speech in 1961, and then of course there's another speech that is made, and that other speech is at Rice University, where Kennedy will again reiterate the goal of the nation to land a man on the moon by the end of this decade.
President Kitson, Mr. Vice President, Governor, Congressman Thomas, Senator Wiley, and Congressman Miller.
Okay, so the title of this was From Camelot to the Moon. Now, why was the JFK hoax accomplished? Why was it done? Well, because the nation was in love. Well, I won't say everyone, but for the most part, the nation was captivated and in love with the presidency of John Kennedy. He was the youngest president ever. He had children in the White House. He had a wit and a humor with the press. His wife was charming. She was quiet but charming. So in a way, America got drawn into this fantasy. Everything is nice and everything is good. And he symbolized the dream to put a man on the moon by the end of the decade. So when he is taken off the stage of history, people will remember that this was his solemn pledge. This is what he really wanted to see happen, for the space industry to excel and for NASA to work its way towards piloting a spaceship to land on the moon. Now, of course, that would entail enormous sums of money. And because the nation was stunned, and because the nation basically was in love with Kennedy, everybody would be rooting for and desiring for America to achieve this goal. So the irony is this, that while Johnson is in office, there's rioting in the streets of America, or so-called rioting. Mostly it was film, like we see today, just films. And there was war raging over 15,000 miles away in an obscure country called Vietnam. While all this was occurring, the terrors of rioting and the terrors of war, America was still doing something very good, and that is America was going to beat the Russians and land a man on the moon by the end of the decade. And indeed, in hoax history, this will be accomplished in July of 1969. So in a way, the hoax assassination of JFK was done so that America would carry out his dream of landing a man on the moon by the end of the decade. And it would be the one good thing that Americans would have in the midst of the chaos of the riots in the cities in America in the 60s and the horror of a war in Southeast Asia. The one good thing would be that America is working to land a man on the moon. Now, of course, you do know the moon is a light. It's not a substance, so nobody can land on it. And you do know that basically speaking, rockets go up into the air and they come down. Incidentally, that's why Cape Canaveral, later named Cape Kennedy, is near the ocean. Because they will go up into the air, but they've got to come down. And they will fall harmlessly into the ocean. And the American public will be completely unaware of the fact all that was done was something went up and something came down. And the renaming of Cape Canaveral to Cape Kennedy was significant because that made Americans feel good that we can get this accomplished for this beloved president, President Kennedy.
Of the Industrial Revolution, the first waves of modern invention, and the first wave of nuclear power. And this generation does not intend to founder in the backwash of the coming age of space. We mean to be a part of it. We mean to lead it. For the eyes of the world now look into space, to the moon, and to the planets beyond. And we have vowed that we shall not see it governed by a hostile flag of conquest, but by a banner of freedom and peace. We have vowed that we shall not see space filled with weapons of mass destruction, but with instruments of knowledge and understanding. Yet the vows of this nation can only be fulfilled if we in this nation are first, and therefore we intend to be first. In short, our leadership in science and industry, our hopes for peace and security, our obligations to ourselves as well as others, all require us to make this effort, to solve these mysteries, to solve them for the good of all men, and to become the world's leading spacefaring nation. We set sail on this new sea because there is new knowledge to be gained and new rights to be won, and they must be won and used for the progress of all people. For space science, like nuclear science and all technology, has no conscience of its own. Whether it will become a force for good or ill depends on man. And only if the United States occupies a position of preeminence can we help decide whether this new ocean will be a sea of peace or a new terrifying theater of war. I do not say that we should or will go unprotected against the hostile misuse of space any more than we go unprotected against the hostile use of land or sea. But I do say that space can be explored and mastered without feeding the fires of war, without repeating the mistakes that man has made in extending his writ around this globe of ours. There is no strife, no prejudice, no national conflict in outer space as yet. Its hazards are hostile to us all. Its conquest deserves the best of all mankind, and its opportunity for peaceful cooperation may never come again. But why, some say, the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why, 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic? Why does Rice play Texas? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win, and the others too. It is for these reasons that I regard the decision last year to shift our efforts in space from low to high gear as among the most important decisions that will be made during my incumbency in the office of the presidency. In the last 24 hours, we have seen facilities now being created for the greatest and most complex exploration in man's history. We have felt the ground shake and the air shattered by the testing of a Saturn C-1 booster rocket, many times as powerful as the Atlas which launched John Glenn, generating power equivalents to 10,000 automobiles with their accelerator on the floor. We have seen the site where 5 F-1 rocket engines, each one as powerful as all 8 engines of the Saturn combined, will be clustered together to make the advanced Saturn missile, assembled in a new building to be built at Cape Canaveral, as tall as a 48-story structure, as wide as a city block, and as long as 2 lengths, of this field. Within these last 19 months, at least 45 satellites have circled the Earth. Some 40 of them were made in the United States of America, and they were far more sophisticated and supplied far more knowledge to the people of the world than those of the Soviet Union. The Mariner spacecraft.
Okay, I'm going to stop it right here, but just another comment. Notice how he took you right into the excitement, and he used the word "we." I have a video somewhere on one of my channels. Don't play the "we" game, the W-E. In other words, do not buy into anything that the media pushes, okay? And he is escalating the expenditures of government on a bunch of nonsense. That is the nonsense of going to the moon. All right? So in other words, it's a big hoax too. And when JFK was taken off the stage of history, the desire of Americans would be to see this hoax dream fulfilled and for America to land a man on the moon by the end of the decade. Thank you for watching. End of video.